This week's Sedra is a double Sedra. It's an exciting week. 2 Sedras. Not that long, so don't get worried. We're not going to be in shul forever this Shabbos. But Sedras Matos and Maasei. Matos is an interesting Sedra. Discusses the laws of vows, of Nedarim. It goes on to many different topics. I'd like to concentrate on just one today. And that's the idea of the war against Midian. Let's take a step back and remember and see exactly who Midian was. If you remember, Moab was the nation that, remember we did this a couple weeks ago, the east side of the Jordan. Bnei Yisrael, in order to get into Eretz Yisrael, had to go through Moab. They offered to pay their way. No war. They weren't interested in a conquest. They just wanted to go through and get into Eretz Yisrael. Moab didn't trust them, and they hired Bilam to curse Bnei Yisrael. Midian, who was directly, again, on the east side of the Jordan, directly above Moab, decided for no reason, again, they weren't threatened at all, Bnei Yisrael didn't want to have anything to do with them, not even cross through their land, decided to enter into the war with Bnei Yisrael. Now this war was interesting. Both Midian and Moab understood that they would never be able to fully conquer Bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael had a Kadosh Baruch Hu on their side. They recognized the only way to get at Bnei Yisrael and to be able to defeat them would be if they would be able to separate HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, from Bnei Yisrael. The only way to do that would be to cause Bnei Yisrael to sin. And Midian sends their women to seduce Bnei Yisrael, to get them to violate all the sexual, promiscuous laws that Bnei Yisrael had, and in order to get them to do Avodah Zarah, as the Medrash explains. That way Bnei Yisrael sin, and a horrible plague occurs, and Midian is able to stop Bnei Yisrael from going through into Eretz Yisrael. If you remember, in the end of Parshas Balak, Pinchas witnessed one of the leaders of the Jewish people, Zimri, in actively engaging in sin with Cosbi, the princess of Midian. In view of everybody, in front of everybody, Pinchas kills them both. This week, in this week's Sedra, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, I want you to go ahead and take revenge on the Midianite people. Up until that point, nothing had happened to them for their sinful ways. Now it's time that Hashem says, I want you to draft 1,000 men from each tribe, 12,000 men, and I want you to take Pinchas to lead the troops. Okay? Question is, why Pinchas? Rashi asks, if a Kohen was to be chosen, Pinchas was a Kohen, then send the Kohen Gadol to lead the troops. Why Pinchas, who was down the line in succession to the Kohen Gadol, why specifically him? And our rabbis explain that the opinion was that Pinchas, who had started this mitzvah with killing Zimri and Cosbi, he should be the one to finish it off against the Midianim. Now, I'm a little puzzled by this, for one very simple reason. It seems to be that Pinchas' actions, killing Cosbi and Zimri, the leaders who were actively engaged in sin, was one mitzvah. Another mitzvah would be to wage war against Midian. Why is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, why is God linking the two together? And therefore, saying that it's one mitzvah, and that's why Pinchas, who started the mitzvah, has to finish the mitzvah. I think we could explain as follows. Midian's whole motivation for sending their women to Bnei Yisrael wasn't simply to get them to sin, but it was to hamper and to hinder their entrance into Eretz Yisrael. But as long as, and they did that, by causing Bnei Yisrael to sin, Bnei Yisrael were not allowed to go straight in. There had to be a plague first. Now, as long as Midian continues to exist, as long as justice hasn't been served, the other nations of the world see this. And they say, hey, you know what? Bnei Yisrael are open targets. There's no problem if you attack Bnei Yisrael. There's no problem if you cause them problems. Midian is still around. In order to make sure that there's no hindrance to Bnei Yisrael coming into Eretz Yisrael with no problem, justice must be served, revenge must be taken against the Midian people. And that's why Pinchas, who started the mitzvah, what was the mitzvah? Removing the hindrance from entering into Eretz Yisrael, now must continue and fulfill and complete the mitzvah of removing all hindrances to coming to Eretz Yisrael by defeating the Midianite people and leading them into battle. And that's why Pinchas was chosen. The lesson that we learn from this is not solely related only to Eretz Yisrael and to conquering Eretz Yisrael. The the lesson goes even further to our lives. When we want to improve our lives, and Elul is just around the corner when we're all going to be taking steps to improving our lives, a lot of us look forward. We look to mitzvahs to add to our repertoire of Torah observance. It's rare the person that recognizes that, you know what? Before I step forward in my observance, I have to step back. I have to see if there's anything hindering my growth. That is the uniqueness of taking a step back in order to take 2 steps forward. Hashem says it's not enough for you to perfect yourself, Bnei Israel. You have to remove all hindrances first. What's the main chief hindrance? Midyan. And that's the lesson that we learn from this week's Sedra. Shabbat Shalom to all.